Hi. Our series for June and July, our theme has been how to get through what you're going through. And I have the privilege during the month of July to meet with some lovely folks from the King's Church family and chat with them about how they got through or how they're getting through what they're going through. And today I want to welcome the lovely David and Jo Baxter. Welcome, guys.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
And you know, I've been thinking that probably we would all have lots of different things that we could have spoke about, and many things over the course of our lives that we could say this is how we got through. But what I'd felt would have been that knowing your situation in the last 2 years and what you have been going through, we had thought that might be something just to be able to share and talk about today. Were you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Jo, do you want to speak a wee bit about exactly what has been happening in your lives as a family?
Yeah, well, October 2018, Anna wasn't feeling very well and had been off school for a little bit, but was determined to carry on in the drama show that she was due to be in, and was off school but going to rehearsals and resting as much as she could. And then on the first day of the performance, she collapsed. And we had a phone call to say we had to come and pick her up. So we picked her up and just thought it was a virus, and she wasn't very well. She felt awful, but nothing in particular that we could pinpoint it at, so just put it down to a virus. And rested and enjoyed movie afternoons together, and gutted, absolutely so disappointed about her not being able to be in the show. So on Friday morning, I woke up and couldn't get out of bed because I felt like I was on a roller coaster.
Wow.
And my mum was up with us because she was coming to see Anna in the show, and she took us to the doctor and said that I had labyrinthitis and that Anna had a virus.
Oh,
but neither of us have really recovered from that. And so the first 6 months particularly were really tough, particularly on Anna. She didn't sleep, or she struggled to sleep. She was so exhausted. She wanted to do things, tried to do things and couldn't. She had awful stomach aches, awful nausea, lots of different things, just awful headaches. It was just horrible.
So a start of a journey for you then that you had no idea of what lay ahead or how long you were going to be on that journey for.
Yeah.
So totally turned your family life upside down by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
How did that, how are you dealing with that? Because I know it's ongoing.
Well, for me, shall I say first? For me, it's trying to keep as much normality as possible for Nathan, because he's still fit and healthy and a crazy 10-year-old. Trying to make sure his things are covered. Trying to reassure him that even though it's not our normal, it's now our new normal. That sometimes when he was going to school, I couldn't get up for him. If I'd been awake all night with Anna, then I physically couldn't get up. He might just come in and give me a hug in bed, or I might still have been asleep. So David would always make sure that he was there and getting Nathan ready for school, and thankfully his normal schedule allowed for that anyway. And it's just talking and reassuring we've had to do, and had to just shifted our normal routine, haven't we, to cover what we feel is necessary.
But so many things that were important, and so many things that are actually life, just life and just family life, all of a sudden we're gone. So you have to find that new normal. And I know that both of you were ill, that yourself and Anna, and it's probably harder watching it for your child than for yourself. Definitely. You know, if you could take it, then you would. So how, David, then a wee bit of what has that meant for you? Because you've almost been in the outside looking in as such, but your emotions and what you've went through would have been as hard.
I have to say the first 6 months or so, it was hard accepting that they were actually not getting better. And there's no sort of visible symptoms, it's hard to actually comprehend what they're suffering.
Yep.
In many ways, if they had a plaster cast or had an operation, it would be dead easy to say, well, there's a sort of a thing that's been resolved, and it will actually get to a conclusion. So being a dad and a husband, that was, I'm a sort of person who likes to fix things.
Wow.
I enjoy a good problem that needs solved, and that was particularly frustrating, that I couldn't
Did
come
it
up with
make you
an
feel a
answer.
bit hopelessness in it then as well? I can't fix it.
Which added to the frustration.
Yep.
That and also the medical profession not really having an answer. So that was really hard. There's also been the change in the abilities of Joe to provide certain things.
Yeah.
So part of the coping that has been the people who have provided the dinners, and particularly the ironing angel who every week saves me having to do the ironing. And
that really is an angel.
Yes. And the delivery driver as well. Dropped it off faithfully. I mean that's the sort of practical help. And I'm fortunate that I do work in Motherwell, and well, I've been working from the home in the more recent weeks, which has helped that I didn't have lots of travelling to do, which would take some time away from the day.
I think part of your journey has been the sort I'm hearing you saying that not being able to accept it, or the disbelief. That would maybe be the word I'm looking for, that you go in it and there's a bit of disbelief, or that there's a thinking, oh, it'll be over within that time. But it's 20 months we're talking about, isn't it? That's a long time.
And it's hard, or I've had to be careful not to get wrapped up in there must be something that I can find, that I can research, that we can research, that we can go to fix it, because we want to take away the suffering and the struggle. And it might be that there will be something that we can come across, and we've tried a few different things. We have gone to different alternative medicine to try and just get some answers. I don't know what to say really, because it's like we've been banging our heads against a brick wall.
Because that there has been struggles as far as getting to the bottom of things and being understood.
Yes, and a fear
by the medical profession.
Yeah, a fear that they're putting it all down to a mental illness, particularly for Anna, and not listening to her when she says that she's hurting and she's sore, and they're not sitting next to her night after night when she's crying, can't hold her head up in pain. And
so hard for you as parents then
to not to be able to,
and to know that she's misunderstood. Wow.
Yeah. And the fear, because if you read too much, you also hear what happens to other families. The fear that it could happen to you, that they think it's a made-up illness. They think as a family you're making it up, or there's something else going on.
Oh my goodness. So there's so many levels that you're working through on this. It's not just the illness itself, it's all these different things that are...
But that's when I've had to just step away and not keep reading into lots of things, because you do get lots of negatives. You can find lots of negative stuff if you look.
Too much information is not a good thing then,
sometimes,
in some situations. Like
that. And there's been lots of things. I mean, I've been sad for her because she's missed school, she's missed clubs, she's missed school prize givings. We've then tried to turn it around so that we're looking at the positive things she's done in a day, or that I've done in a day, just to... You have to. You can't live getting upset all the time.
Tell me a bit about the cloud story, because I remember when I had visited you one time, you were saying that one of the blessings of a day was that she was able to see the clouds from the window, and I thought that was so beautiful, just that she would be looking at that, and then there's butterfly things as well. Tell us a wee bit about that.
Yeah, so for both of us, we spent a lot of time in bed. Most of the day is spent in bed. And she's got an amazing window to look out of, amazing view of the sky. She loves people watching, and we just look and see how the sky changes. And when I was feeling just so ill, didn't know what to do next, I just remember thinking, that sky is amazing. God's made that sky. And then the verse, all heaven declares the glory of him. And you just think, every minute it's changing. So blue skies, grey skies, even the grey horrible skies actually were more interesting to us than the bright blue sky, because the greys had all different colours. The whites had all different shades. The clouds had all different shades, whereas the clear blue was just clear blue. And it didn't seem to change. So we loved all the skies, but our favourite was when it was windy and grey and you could see all the changes. And it just keeps reminding us every day, and her, both of us, that God doesn't change. You know, that God's the creator. And the skies sort of just show his handiwork. It's a bit like an art gallery.
When you look back on it, and we believe there will be a time when you will look back on this as a memory, and the things that you did, like watching the clouds, or you know, they'll be the memories that you'll remember. Don't know that you won't remember the pain of it, you know, because that, as Christians, we tend to want to hear your stories once you're through it. Come and tell us once you're out the other side. You know, there's that whole, what, you're not through it yet, and sometimes we need to be able to see where the grace of God is during it. And I know that we always see the grace when we look back and we think, wow, but you guys are still in it. And that was why we felt that your story was important, that we don't always say, and then here's what happened, because that's not happened yet with you guys. You are not where you hope to be. And so has having a faith made a difference to you? Because we know that people go through this. As Christians, we are not exempt from things that others go through. Do you feel that having a faith has made a wee bit of a difference, David? I'll ask you first.
Definitely. Although I've probably been a bit like the psalmist, I've asked lots of questions. And over the, particularly last year, there's been different messages on a Sunday that have just gone right to the heart of the matter.
That's good.
There's also songs that about God keeping his promises, which have really, when you're thinking, well, is it possible that I'm going to get the healing? That you're asking that sort of question. And invariably, that's the time that the song comes back, or somebody picks up on it. There's certainly been the sort of a planting of these promises, and we picked up on that in our Psalm 37, that God had lots of promises. So I don't know if you chose the psalm for that particular reason, but we certainly picked up a lot of encouragement from that. I also listen to podcasts as I'm doing things. When I'm doing the ironing, not that I always do, I quite often listen to some messages from elsewhere. And I listened to one from R.T. Kendall, and he was basically asking why suffering, and I was going, well, suffering, why? Really asking the question. And he said, if you look at Job's life, he lost lots, and it was because God was actually saying, look, here's somebody who I can actually trust to get through the situation. And he was almost cheering from the sidelines and saying, the angels, come and look at this person. He's managing to survive, and he's still trusting, even though circumstances are dire. So the fact that Paul was almost encouraged to say, count it all joy when you suffer. I'm going, well, how can you really
That's
joy
not an easy one.
in suffering? But I think it's you learn to trust when you're actually going through difficulties. And a more recent podcast was a guy from Bethel who was looking at the story of the storm, and he was just explaining that the disciples, some of them were fishermen, were seasoned sailors, and they got to the end of their experience and their ability, and it was then he said, so where's your faith?
Wow.
So he was almost allowing the circumstances to test the folks, to help them to understand that they needed to rely on him, and he just happened to be sleeping in the boat. When he was actually saying, well, maybe you should just be resting in this strange situation. So that's perhaps the thing that the last sort of a lockdown period is actually enforced upon us, is the ability to rest. Because our daily routine's been shot to bits. But it's actually freed up time to maybe actually do some more reading, do some more resting, and actually spend time.
That's good.
Just catching up with each other. It's the Zoomer generation that we've just moved into. And despite isolation, it's actually we've been able to
connect again. That's great.
With people around the planet. But it's compared to the previous pandemic when people heard about it by letter and telegram.
That's right.
So that's one of the couple of things that I've picked up on over the last few months.
And as you're saying, when the experienced fishermen couldn't fix it, they had to realise that it was only the Lord that would fix it. So that's a wee bit of what you were saying about not being able to fix it. Coming to the end of yourself or your skills of what you could do. And it is a huge trust. Have you found him then to be the God of the valley? I'm wondering, is there more of a tenderness and a vulnerability that sometimes when everything's going okay, that you're not in tune with? You know, certainly there is a sense of, I mean, I've said to you before, I've seen the grace of God all over you guys during this. I know that you have said you didn't feel it, but I really believe that the grace of God is carrying you through it. Have you found him to be the God of the valley? Whereas I would say where you are at this time is in the valley. Is he in the valley with you? Do you feel that?
Definitely. Definitely. I learned in a previous experience that I could ask God anything, and that stood me in really good stead. So not just ask him, just vent, rant and rave in my head. You know, at night time, just say, I actually don't know what to say to Anna. I don't know how to help her. I can't cope with seeing her like this. And then, you know, what have we done to deserve this? All that kind of stuff. And then, just like the psalmists do, it's been so encouraging to read through it. They rant and rave and, you know, lay out everything, how hopeless it is, and then just know God speaks into their heart quietly that I'm here. You know, that God's here. And just every night, just going, we've gone through one more night. You know, or we've got through one more morning, or we've got through one more afternoon, and God's taken us through one more day when I couldn't have walked another step.
And being able to be truthful like that with God, being able to sort of tell it like it is and get it out there and be angry, that's faith. That's not lack of faith. That's believing that there is a God who is able to deal with every emotion. And he is. We sometimes think, no, we need to be positive. We need to be saying how good it is, and actually it's not so good. We've spent a lot of time saying it's not fair. You know, and we were at, I would say, probably one of the happiest, most settled parts of our lives. Wow.
Certainly I was in a job I loved, couldn't believe that I had the privilege of doing what I did every day. And I felt like life had come full circle for me. And that has been, just to explain a wee bit about that's been robbed, or that's gone as well as something that you're no longer able to do, which is and I don't understand it.
No.
But I know that other circumstances in my life I didn't understand at the time, and yet they were sorted out actually in a way that blew my mind. So, you know, I have to hold on to that and know that that he's trustworthy, because we've proved him like that before in the past, separately as a couple. I think I've learned to be more patient in all of this. Calmer.
I'm asking David, can you confirm, is that the truth?
She doesn't verbalise it very often, but it has been true.
Absolutely.
That you're becoming more patient.
Well, understanding that things can't be done in a second. I'm such a doer by nature, have always been, that actually it doesn't matter if things don't get done.
Yeah. That's a learning in itself, isn't it? To let go. And both of you are fixers by the sounds of it, you know. So when it's something that actually you can't physically fix, it's learning that patience. Some, you know, they talk about trials, that we go through trials, and that perseverance is for to help us in that, but it's no nice when you're going through it, you know. And I think there are character changes that take place. That we wouldn't choose that to be the way that it takes place. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know. So do you feel that you know God in a different way, guys? Is that something that would be?
Yeah. I feel I found God more in the little things, in the quiet times, in just the simple words.
Yeah.
And just the, I don't know how to describe it. It has been the little personal things that have meant the most to me, that have shaken me. Even somebody sending me something that I've talked to God about. Could be a verse or a word or a little gift. One friend sent me a bag I'd looked at in a shop and thought, oh, it's really silly buying it, and she sent me that exact bag.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's silly little things that you think, God sees me. God sees every single little bit of me, and so I will trust this God. I will trust that God through this season, because actually it's the best place to be. We've been in,
and that's before the prayers are answered. That's before we're talking about how you got through, and we're not looking back on not yet looking back on the victory, but and you're saying that He is faithful.
Yes,
He is faithful. That's amazing. That is amazing. David, what?
It's probably similar. Getting someone who maybe mentions something to you. I was looking back at notes that I'd taken from the sermons, and I spotted one that Babs had actually mentioned, that sometimes the answer is just not yet. And that was at the time probably when I was asking, so when's this ever going to happen?
Wow.
And similarly, just picking up on lessons from Abraham, and that he had the incredible faith to actually change his name. He was originally called Daddy, but he was to change his name to Daddy of Many Nations when he was childless, and that was a promise that God was giving him. So it was the fact that sometimes we do need to wait. The answer is actually, well, from God's perspective, it's happened. He's actually looking out with time. We are constrained by that, and sometimes we get impatient, which is probably one of the other things I've been learning. How patient do I need to learn? How much patience do I need to learn? It's perhaps the question.
How impatient was I?
But it's knowing that will happen, and to some degree, it's living in the fact that in the past we've seen God's promises happening.
Yes.
And particularly for looking at Anna's life, she was the answer to a promise.
Wonderful. Wow.
And it's you build on things.
Yes.
So as we've gone through different crisis, I suppose, in our life, we've probably picked up some ways
to learn from past experiences.
And that's why He's then allowing us to do a wee bit more. The
words of the song, even though I can't see it, He's working. Even though I can't feel it, He's working. And
it's
that's
one of the songs that.
Is that right? And that is so true, that it is totally a walk of faith at this time for you guys as well. How about for you as a couple? Has that been tough? Have you learnt to work with one another in different ways? I mean, you don't need to answer that if it's too personal, that's okay, but I would take that you would have had to have grown individually, which means that you have grown together as well.
It's harder to communicate because we've got when I was out working, there was big chunks of the day, and it's really I come in with what I think is important. To find that that Joe.
Who's first to speak? Who's getting in?
Yes,
or actually can't physically hear anything. You can't hear him because the buzzing's so. I actually can't.
So you're not there to emotionally almost for David. Yeah.
So that's been the hard part.
And just not being able to spend the amount of time together or do anything much together. But as a family, I feel we're stronger together.
Yeah.
Because we all do support each other. Nathan's great with Anna. He's great with me. David and Nathan have had opportunity to have time together when actually Anna and I are both in bed.
Yes.
So
there's invisible things that have been built in.
Well, because we haven't been able to go on holiday. So David and Nathan went off to see his sister down in Cumbria, and
I've been to Legoland.
Taking
some father and son stuff.
Family,
which is to go see my family. So that we can't travel. I possibly could travel. Anna definitely can't travel. No. So those things, and just having joy for them, just so pleased they can go and do it. Sad for us, but actually at one point we couldn't be left anyway. We weren't well enough to have been left
for them to go.
So I think as a couple I feel like I think about what I'm going to say rather than launch into it. There are times I do just launch into it as I want to.
I was thinking you're going through the normal couple stuff that everyone goes through anyway, and even in lockdown everybody's having to readjust to being together when that hasn't been the case.
I think we've sort of realised that it's actually okay to give each other space. And to be honest, the four of us are often in separate rooms, and then we'll eat meals together. Anna can't, not when
just
she's
to be
well
comfortable
enough,
with that is
and not to, I think I used to try and just be the perfect family.
Yes, here's what it looks like.
Yes, where you spend time together.
Absolutely.
Where you spend time together, but actually it's more forced. Why aren't we coping doing this? Because actually, we're better off.
Who's to say what does that look like? That's probably magical thinking. It's that whole sort of, and we would also in our magical thinking think, if God does this, this and this, then this will be good for my character. And we certainly wouldn't say if you do this, this or this. Not that we're saying this is of God, but we wouldn't choose how he develops our character or perseverance. We certainly wouldn't choose some of the methods that he uses, but guys, thank you so much. You have been so open, so honest. Is there anything that you feel that you would want to just say to the folks?
I've picked up on sort of the emotions thing. So we've got friends who are over in the States. One of the guys used to be a camp leader, and he moved over to America. And they've been working through a series of podcasts looking at emotions. And how to handle them, and it's opened up some things that I'll perhaps is a totally different episode.
We will hold you to that. We're coming back to ask him about that, Joe.
So it is.
That's good.
As I'm looking back at different circumstances, I can see that probably could have done things better.
Okay.
And probably haven't mourned as I should have.
Wonderful,
perhaps of just understanding my emotions as you're going through that. So that's where
I'm definitely coming back to interview him in that one.
Just dipping into that at the moment. Who knows where it will lead.
That's really good. And
I've downloaded the book.
You've downloaded the book?
I've downloaded the book.
Okay.
Excellent. Joe, if anything that you could say to the folks, just I think you have been in the midst of it, you have been encouraging and you have shared very openly and honestly. We really appreciate it. But if there was one thing that you could say to folks, who may be going through not the same but similar situations where God has not yet brought them through, what would your thing be that you would say?
I think 2 things: appreciate the people around you, and just appreciate little messages, just the little things that God puts in place. And also for me, amidst the sorrow and the frustration and the hurt and everything, I like to focus on the joy. because it's amazing. I'd like to say magical. It's not quite the word I'm looking for. Amazing. It's just great, and it does change how you go through a day. So the joy of the Lord, but more just the funny things. Or if Anna comes downstairs, then I do a little happy dance inside. Just wonderful. Remembering the good things.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I would love to be a part of when the prayer is answered and when we are through what you are going through, to come and share the testimony of that. But in the meantime, thank you so much for sharing what you are still going through and doing so with so much grace. And just thank you so much. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.